Hello, everyone. This is Adam Wyatt, aka AKWAnalytics, coming to you on this Friday afternoon. It's been a long time since we've been on the air, so to speak, for a BBA show. Unfortunately, we couldn't have Rich on today. He's still a member of the community, but he's been busy recently. So it's going to be Jonathan and I, who's new. Jonathan has not been on the show yet. Although him and JC, two key community members for BBA, have been doing some altcoin videos. So we're gonna do something similar. We're gonna change up the format a little bit for today at least, and focus on crypto. No really macro stuff today. We might bring some of that in next week, but we're gonna just go strictly crypto today. So I mean, I think the logical place to start is to start with Bitcoin, which, I mean, the thing is just strong. It's just, to me, every day I wake up and I feel like more and more that Bitcoin is widely considered now the reserve currency of the cryptocurrency space. I don't see a lot of controversy in saying that, because it doesn't have any impact on the other alts. There's plenty of other legitimate, intriguing projects out there. But without Bitcoin, none of them really make any economic sense. So I think that's one of the things that the market has been coming to grips with over the past 3 months or so, over the medium-term rally that we've seen. But this recent rally, following the China crackdown and the volumes dropping off, I was pretty sure that we were going to just flatline, go sideways in the 800-900s for a month, maybe a little rally in February, which I was expecting. But I mean, this has been really, really strong price action, getting back above 1,000. Retraces are being bought, as we see over here on the Crypto Watch hourly chart. Nice strong rally. We are starting to get a little bit toppy in here. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see us come down into the mid 900s before taking another leg to the upside. But I mean, on balance, volume looks good. These spikes down into this 61.8 fib level here. If we go out to the 4-hour, you can see that. So we're coming up into this OT short zone, which is another reason why we be cautious around here as far as in terms of the new longs. But in terms of the entirety of this rally, if we just take this rally from these, this 751 China crackdown low, I mean, this is pretty nice, healthy, steady action. So it doesn't look to be overdone from a medium to long-term perspective yet. And so, over the next couple of days to a couple of weeks, I would expect higher prices. I mean, we're going to be buyers on dips at the levels in the update. So in the updates, so I think things are looking pretty good for Bitcoin. What kind of thoughts do you have about Bitcoin, Jonathan?
Hello. So yeah, my name is Jonathan, and hello everybody. And I have this Bitcoin chart. It's a 3-day Bitcoin chart on a logarithmic scale that I follow since almost 2 years now.
Yeah, it's a nice chart.
And I have marked. So what you can see here is, in the past, Bitcoin usually had run-ups, then times where it consolidates, new run-up, consolidation, and new run-ups. And what I marked in this chart is supply and demand shocks. And the typical supply shock is Bitcoin halving. For example, this here was the first halving, when the supply that comes new onto the market was cut in half. And right after this, we had a huge rally. That was in beginning of 2013. Then at the end of 2013, after another consolidation, which I have marked here, they always turn out to be inverted head and shoulders pattern. That's what they are called.
Yeah.
And
that's funny.
So in the end of the of 2013, there was the Silk Road bust, where the U.S. government seized 144,000 coins.
I remember that day, actually. Sorry to interrupt. I remember that day when that happened, where exactly where I was when I saw that news on my phone, and I was paralyzed for about 10 minutes. I literally couldn't move.
Yes.
It was one of those bizarre feelings I've ever had. Sorry,
I remember
I just had to mention that.
But what happened is, at least, I mean, there's lots of theories with the Willibot and so on, but I think what happened was that all those people who lost the coins on Silk Road, that were using it to do their business. If they wanted to continue to do business, they had to buy back, and we saw a huge rally. Anyway, since then, for over 3 years now, or 2.5 years, it has been consolidating, and just at the end of last year broke out of this huge, massive inverted head and shoulders pattern. We had another supply shock, which was the second halving, where if demand stays the same or even is increasing, price has to go up because there's only half the supply now. So we broke this neckline, and now in the new year 2017, price came back down on the China news and tested the neckline, but now it's nicely bouncing off the neckline. And if history repeats, we are in for a nice long bull run in this year.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's interesting that that neckline that you have drawn there, the test is so clean.
Yes,
that's really bullish.
I agree. Yes, it's clear bounce.
Yeah.
And yeah, as far as I know, all the governments, they don't have any coins in their inventory right now, so there's no supply shocks where the government all of a sudden auctions off a few thousand coins into the market, which happen. You can see where always demand shocks. Anyway,
and also,
so
I think there was some. The Australian government had also seized a couple thousand coins and did those in a series of much smaller auctions. But still, while I think there was even more supply, I mean, more of a demand shock during that bear market, because not only was the U.S. government selling, but the Australian government was also auctioning coins from their classes. Yeah.
Yes. So I have one theory that I'm thinking of lately, and that is, we have heard a lot of talk in the Bitcoin space or the cryptocurrency space, how bigger institutions start to look into Bitcoin now, like hedge funds, investment funds, and maybe even like governments.
Right.
So, and I wonder if I was a big financial institution who wants to invest a big, compared to the Bitcoin market cap, a big investment into Bitcoin, how would I do it? And as we know, there's different ways how somebody can acquire Bitcoins. Obviously, you can buy, can mine, or earn it. So if I was a big institution and I don't want to know anybody that I'm acquiring Bitcoins, why not start a mining
Yes.
company?
Right. Yeah.
And start mining them, because this will give them a steady income in Bitcoins without moving the price, without other people necessarily knowing who is mining this. And also, if I was let's say a 3-letter government agency, they're not stupid, right? There's smart people there too, and they see this whole thing coming too. So if I was a government agency, maybe I would get into mining. And if this is true, then there would be even much less supply now, because usually in the past, the mined Bitcoins got pretty much sold into the market.
Right.
But if they are now used to or being accumulated, that would be really bullish too. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, and I know that we're going to get to a chart that this kind of leads into here in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes perfect sense. The only thing is that, given kind of where the condition of Bitcoin mining right now, it takes pretty large amounts of capital to set up big mining operations now, which would seem to me like the people with the most capital, because they're the ones printing it, is governments.
Yes, exactly. And as you mentioned, I have a chart of the hash rate, and it's incredible how much hash rate has been added over the last 2 months. It's going straight, like vertical. And this is another thing.
That's insane. Yeah. So before it was really impressive. Like before the past couple of months, the hash rate
Yes.
was it was getting that kind of parabolic, arc to it. These past 2 months have just, it's almost a straight line.
Yes.
And if it is governments, they're all in competition with each other. That's not. If anything, that could even accelerate even more.
I agree.
Because as more pile on, even more are going to have to pile on.
I agree.
Even later in the game, right?
I agree.
Yeah. So I mean, that is really that's something to keep an eye on, the hash rate. Now it's we're not saying that this is that absolutely that governments are going out and mining bitcoins. That's not what we're saying. But it does, just for our audience, it does make sense for that to be the case. Again, especially because of the capital situation, maintenance, and all this kind of stuff. It's just it would be it's pretty easy for governments to do this. I mean, really, you think about China cracking down on the exchanges. You go, they're trying to clean up the exchange side, and it could maybe the Chinese government's like, pumping a bunch of money into mining operations. I mean, that would be that, not only would those fundamentals be bullish, but that narrative would be extremely bullish for the price, just because speculators will love that kind of news.
I agree. I totally agree. And another super, super bullish chart is like, it almost cannot get more bullish, is the number of transactions. And we probably all remember this FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, before the last halving, like the second halving last year in summer.
Yeah.
So much was going on with, oh, Bitcoin's gonna die, and no, man, every day or every week there's more transactions than the week before. And yeah, so the last peak was during the last run up here, and in December, and now it's going sideways. But I expect, especially if the price keeps on rising, I expect this to keep on going up. And
yeah, I do too. So just real quick again for our audience, why do you use the chart of this one? Yeah, what is the 100, like excluding the 100th longest change or something like that? Why do you use that one rather than the total number of transactions? I know why, but some of our audience might not know why you're using that one.
yeah, it's just a cleaner chart because, as the audience probably knows, there's once in a while there's this spam attacks going on.
Right.
People just create long chains of transactions and spam the network with tens of thousands of transactions. And yes, they are legitimate transactions, but they are not organic growth. And in order to show the organic growth, it's better to exclude them.
Yeah, I don't think so. You're right. Every transaction is a legitimate transaction, but they're not value creating transactions. They don't create economic value of this kind. Right? Yeah, so I think it's good to exclude them. You can either use that one or the excluding popular address, or kind of actually it's best to just look at both of those. So you can get a feel for what kind of actual economic activity is happening on the network.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think as from my standpoint, like I talked about, the technicals, and you're a technical guy too, I'm sure you'd agree, look pretty good, medium to long-term perspective. Like, your weekly chart, my 4-hour chart here looks good. The fundamentals look good. It's undeniable that the metrics that we want to see increasing are increasing. So, that justifies the bull market, in my opinion. And in fact, it justifies a lot more upside. It's still undervalued, in my opinion.
I fully agree.
Awesome. Cool, man. All right. Well, I think we're kind of in agreement on Bitcoin. It'll be interesting to watch over February. I think it's going to be pretty active and pretty exciting. Which also means that altcoins, although typically it'll be to the downside, will be volatile as well. And one of the exceptions to that recently has been our little guy here, Bullberry. So there's probably some that are listening or will listen eventually that are like, what the hell is this? That's not even a word. And you're right, it's not. It was invented. Nobody really knows where this name Bullberry came from, and throughout its history, which is a couple of years, that's been almost one of the biggest controversies amongst the community, is whether to change the name or not. But it looks like at this point they're going to stick with the name Bullberry, change the symbol from BBR to XBB to be in line with other kind of current, official currency codes. But I mean, there's rumblings. There's some investment groups that have gotten involved. Apparently, there's some new development that's happening. But in my opinion, the main driver of what's been happening over the past couple of days has been these technicals. I mean, it was this. So this was a waiting game. BBA had mentioned Bullberry I don't know, months back, maybe mid to late 2016, just as a completely speculative idea, kind of buying lows kind of thing along a major trend line. And it was kind of just, again, like I said, it was a waiting game. It was like, all right, let's just buy this thing and see if it's going to pump, even if it's just an exit pump, let's just see if we can get something out of it, down in these lows here. And so, again, this news has catalyzed a breakout above what was some resistance levels here, and you can see all this rejection up in here, and the upside has all been taken out now. So a lot of congestion. So this just created pretty much an orgy of buying over the past couple of days. That's driven price up into close to some resistance areas. Now this, I mean, it's a coin that has a low supply, like even lower than Monero, which is low, and there's not. I think it's mostly held by large players, and so there's just not a lot of what they call float, and so it really could keep going. It could go another 30, 40, 50%. I mean, it could maybe double before it's all over, but it's interesting. The technicals look pretty good. It's just to touch on it so people know, it's a crypto note coin, which is also what Monero is based on. So it's similar to Monero with some slight deviations in proof of work algorithm and stuff like that. But essentially, it's an anon coin that had a period of kind of dormancy as far as development goes. That's just picked back up, and so it's just worth looking into. But again, if anybody, look into it if you want. But buying after a 5x run in a couple of days, never advisable. But again, interesting project. This is one to keep an eye on. What do you think, Jonathan?
I fully agree. Yes, I have a BBR chart too.
Yeah.
And I would like to use this opportunity to do a quick little advertisement for the BBA Altcoin Pro Room. And
Yeah.
we bought it for the tracker fund, and we sent a trade idea out here in the 20th of this month. And only 1 week later, we had this huge run up. We sold. We had a sell-filled at this level, and another sell-filled just yesterday. Yeah, really nice.
That's beautiful. I mean, you can't really, like I said, a lot of it, when I started to get involved just from a personal level, was just like kind of a wait and see. But the great thing about Altcoin Pro is that you get the timing just ends up being pretty good overall,
Yes.
in comparison to just being like, oh, I'll just throw, whatever it is, a couple $100 at this thing and hold it for a year. That gets hard to do, just from speaking from experience. Life tends to throw stuff at you where you're like, oh man, I could use that cash maybe and just cash out of, that coin's dying. You start justifying this stuff, and then a couple days later it rips higher. But the Altcoin Pro, the setups are great in that they're triggered by certain things in the technicals that can make the timing better.
Yes, another great example is this pink coin that we bought around the same time, first or second week of this year, and now it's still turning and rallying up, huge volume coming in. And
see, this is interesting. Sorry, I was going to say just something I just noticed was that on both BBR and Pink Coin, the market structure coming in is just really bullish, which is surprising to me in the face of this Bitcoin strength. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, that's one thing that I wanted to talk about. Is a great observation. And what happened in the past over the last two huge Bitcoin rallies, where it ran up to $500, and then the second time in July when it ran up to $800.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the altcoin market cap. This is Bitcoin. This chart up here is Bitcoin. Down here is the altcoin market caps. The big one is combined. So after Bitcoin ran up to 800 in the second half of last year, and had the consolidation after, where price came down here, the altcoins had a big bull market and were going up pretty good. We remember this. And what the same happened after the Bitcoin went up to 500 back here in beginning of last year, and came down and had a long consolidation while the alts were just roaring higher. Huge.
Yeah, those are like those hashtag alts are back period.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So very interesting over the last run up in Bitcoin to over $1,000. And what we were used to over the last two run-ups, that we had a long consolidation after. And so in the anticipation of this, all the altcoins were going up now, as you can see in the altcoin market cap. But at the same time, we now see Bitcoin going up as well. So this is the first time actually that I see the Bitcoin market cap shooting up, and at the same time the altcoin market cap shooting up. And the only explanation for this that I have is that there's new money entering the markets, which means the new money invests into Bitcoin, and then part of the new money they invest into altcoins. It's not people who take profit out of Bitcoin and put it into altcoins in anticipation of a long consolidation, even bear market. No, it's new money coming in, which
Yeah, and
again
so
is super bullish.
Very bullish, and that goes back to the idea of Bitcoin being the reserve currency. You know, so this is what you see when you have reserve currencies, is that people enter those markets and then they try to add alpha to that currency, like try to get more of that currency by speculating in other kind of related assets or financial assets. Essentially, in this case it's crypto assets. But the point of all of, in my opinion, maybe not all, there is legitimate investment into altcoin projects, but I would say that maybe half, if not more, of that money is speculating in the altcoin markets strictly in order to make more Bitcoin.
I fully agree. This is 100% the reason why I speculate with altcoins, only to generate more Bitcoins.
Right. Yeah. So, that just, as you reinforce that mindset, particularly amongst traders and investors who tend to kind of be at the leading edge of a lot of this kind of stuff, that permeates the mindset. It's like, again, Bitcoin is the money that the whole ecosystem revolves around. And it, it is that way for a number of reasons, but in my opinion, it's stayed like that because of security. It's just so secure and it's so hard to change, and that's such an advantage, especially when you have all these other options, around it.
I fully agree. And maybe since this fits in, we can quickly touch on this the huge elephant in the room, since this elephant is now settling in this room since over a year, which is the block size debate.
Right.
If I was a big player, it doesn't matter who it is, in financial institution, government, whatever, and I would want to accumulate Bitcoins. Obviously, I want the price to stay as low for as long as possible, so I can accumulate more.
Right.
How do I do this? I create a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And by now, in my opinion, the main reason why SegWit does not get activated yet is only for big players who are, let's say, who are in control of things. They just want to accumulate as much or as many Bitcoins as possible and then activate Bitcoin, because I think pretty much everybody agrees that if SegWit would get activated, that would be a super, super bullish buy signal for Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. So you think it's a play, you think it's a market play, and that they'll hold it back, try to hold back price via SegWit until the last couple of weeks, and then they'll ram it through.
That's I have thought a lot about this issue, and it seems to be clear pretty much to everybody now that SegWit is the way to go. And all these other solutions, increasing the block size via hard fork, they are not serious. They're not serious, because it would break Bitcoin's, as you mentioned earlier, the reserve currency has evolved because Bitcoin has such a huge security, it cannot be changed. The only difference, or let's say the main difference between Bitcoin and everything else, for example, PayPal, is that Bitcoin cannot be changed. Nobody can change Bitcoin. So this is arguably the most important feature of Bitcoin. So if we now change this feature by changing Bitcoin, by doing a hard fork, I don't think this is what we want, what the community wants long term. We want something that cannot be changed, and we have solutions how we can scale without changing the consensus mechanism, with scaling on with layers on top of the Bitcoin protocol, completely decentralized, completely safe and secure. So for me, there's not a single reason to not activate SegWit. So
Yeah.
it only can be political, and again, I think big players. If this what you and me and probably most of the people that watch this video is true, and Bitcoin will take over in the coming years and maybe decades, then other people see this too, and they now want or even need to accumulate as much as possible. So all this political plays, I think they're just a means to accumulate
Well,
as much as possible.
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Because, in the context of, so I read this article a couple days ago about why Chinese miners hadn't adopted SegWit. And it was like something like they were mad at Western Bitcoiners for not being nice enough or something like that. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah, that
this,
was Tour Deemster's article, right?
yeah. And I was like,
Yeah,
maybe, but people don't, in my experience, people don't give a crap about feelings when it comes to money.
I agree.
So something else very well could be going on here.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, feelings are good and all, but again, the money that's the kind of money that's on the line for these operations and people that need to get into this market is huge. I mean, nobody cares about feelings
I
when
agree.
when
I
we're when
agree.
we're dealing with this kind of stuff.
And the funny thing that you bring this up is the main argument that I hear from people that are opposed to SegWit is, it's not about SegWit itself, about the technical side of it. It's all a political thing. It's about the people who created SegWit, the developers. Like, for example, Roger Ver saying, I don't support SegWit because I think the core developers are evil because they support censorship and stuff like this. And then again, this is just
That's the
it's
old
just
world.
politics
Yeah,
bullshit.
it's the old world Democrat, Republican, Hillary, Trump garbage being dragged in to a community that was explicitly, or a project that was explicitly created to get rid of that kind of garbage. And
Exactly,
so, yeah,
exactly.
I don't, I'm not saying any of these people are implants or agents or they're agitators or whatever, people that have been, stirring stuff up over the past couple of years. But I think it's to a point now to where pretty much everybody knows who, like you said, who's right and who's wrong in this particular argument.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it very well could just be a play to be able
Yeah.
to accumulate more coins. Wouldn't
One
surprise me at all.
one Roosevelt quote always comes to mind when I hear Roger Ver talking. And what Roosevelt said was, I mean, you probably know this, great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. And if you look at who discusses technical SegWit adoption, like technical points, they discuss the idea of SegWit. And then we have small minds that only discuss developers and discuss people and, oh, I don't like this guy. This is just, we should leave this behind us and focus on technicals, in my opinion.
Absolutely, that is a very very well said. Great quote, by the way, one of the best ever.
Yeah.
And and that's probably a good place to wrap up for today. But the whole conversation from reserve currency to metrics and fundamentals to price action and technicals, Bitcoin is a powerhouse right now. And if it does turn out that this SegWit thing has been used by more powerful and wealthier people than us to accumulate coins, the smartest thing for us to do is do exactly the same thing, right? Take advantage of the situation they're creating, and buy those dips.
I agree.
That's awesome, Jonathan. Well, I think this went great, man. I mean, I'm looking forward to doing this again a lot more in the future. Also, I know that we both want to bring, more people in. We get JC and Rich and, guys in here. I think, we could have a really intriguing conversation, especially around alts,
Yes.
If it's true that what we're seeing here is a breaking of the old correlation and a creation of a new one, and that Bitcoin and altcoins tend to go up together, the opportunities in the altcoin space are going to explode. So it could be really great for the altcoin pro.
Yes, I agree. And
side of things.
I really look forward to next time talk a little bit about the other macro thing, because Bitcoin does not exist in vacuum, and what's going on in the other real world is really worth talking about too, in correlation with Bitcoin, right? So
absolutely, and
let's do that next time.
Next time we should try to get Rich on, because he's like the U.S. dollar bond expert, and that's like all wrapped up in that whole legacy thing that we want to get into, and then the whole dollar, fiat currency stuff, all intertwined. And so yeah, I think that it would be good to cover that kind of a broad perspective, especially since there's so much stuff going on in the world right now that's changing and people are
I know it's really bullish for Bitcoin as well.
Man, it really is. And I was actually telling my girlfriend last night, I was looking at the chart. So Bitcoin's going up again. I go, yeah, I don't take a side whether it's good or bad, but Bitcoin loves chaos. It loves uncertainty. It loves tension. It's just this little kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, it's like an anomalistic safe haven. I mean, who would have thought that people would be rushing out to buy this weird electronic asset when they're scared?
Yes, because nobody can mess with it, especially not the government.
That's right. Absolutely. Just goes to show you how powerful that property of decentralization is. So anyway, Jonathan, have a great weekend. It's Friday, so I'm going to be, kicking back after this. But hopefully early next week we can do another one of these and hit up the macro side.
Sounds good. I'm in.
All right, Jonathan. Awesome. Well, you have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody.
Bye to everybody.
Bye-bye.